Hey, what's up? I want to do a quick video on some Simpson hangers and show you a problem that I've run into. So this might get a little fragmented. I'm going to show you the problem first. So if you don't want to watch all the particulars, you can just sign off and be done with it. But the evidence here is pretty clear and certainly shows an issue. I'll show you what I'm working on. So I'm working on it's a big ass pool deck. Here, bird's eye view. It's actually a Doug fir top, but that's what her architect specs. So just spare me with the comments about talking about fir topping on a deck. What we have here is we have a caisson wall. We have a 98% grade build up in the middle. We have an environmentally sensitive area out here down to a pond. I don't know if you can see the pond through there probably. And it's staked out where the environmentally sensitive area is, and the caissons were built up to house the 98% grade, and then we're putting a pool deck on top of it. So I'll show you this real quick before I outline the problem with you. But so I'll go up top. So what we have here is a top deck that we built up so she can wheel out onto her top deck. Now this Douglas fir deck goes all the way through the house and out through the front. We have some stairs here so that we have wheelchair access around to the stairs going down into the deck. We're going to have a handicap ramp coming off here down onto these footings here. And one's buried because they just had to redig this trench for the conduit for the pool cover. So there's a pool cover coming across. Handicap ramp comes down from there to here and then drops down at 1 inch per foot into this section here. I just haven't cut these off yet. But here's the problem with the Simpson hangers. So we got into this massive over-engineering thing. I drew this project. Let me show you. When somebody brings me in, there's issues. So obviously there's a multitude of issues with this. And they brought me in because they didn't know exactly how to do it. And I did the plans and drew the project. And then we had to run them for a stamp through an engineer. Sorry about all the movement here, but I'm trying to do this one hand. If I get my drawings out of my thing here. Kate and I, my wife, did the design. While using up the space properly. So here's my drawing for, I did this by hand. I went to school for architectural engineering, structural engineering, and architectural design. So here's the handicap ramp. Here is the deck drawing. All the decking had to be run in the same direction. We had to make room for, this is going to suck, but the handicap ramp coming down like this, wrapped around the deck. Wrap around the end, which is where I'm decking right now. And then we had to transfer that over to an engineer who didn't draw it, who just had to put their engineering stamp on it. Right here. and with what I had to incorporate into the build, what she spec'd for the engineering side. So the engineering side, which was a pain in the ass, is that she, hey, there's Wessex. Hey, Wessex. He likes the bubbles. She spec'd, the engineer spec'd a triple beam out here. You can see it right here. Triple beam around the outside. The ABU 66Z hangers, which don't work with a triple beam 2 by, but that's what she spec'd. And we had to do a triple beam all the way down this. So this is a 42 foot run, and this is like a 35 foot run here, which is just silly because, you know, we don't need a beam out here. We could have just gone with a double edge joist here, which would have made a lot more sense. And that would have made sense for the problem with these Simpson hangers. So if you look at the Simpson hangers through here, I'll show you as clearly as I can. Make sure that I can see through. These Simpson hangers in here now, the joists have all shrunk up off the bottom of the Simpson hangers. Now, before you say, well, I just didn't put them in tight. No, I did. If you look at this one, it's got a shim in it. So after I started framing this one section right here, and we paused because there was an elevation change, which will make sense when you look up here. There was an elevation change on the pool, and I'll go up there and talk about it in a minute. I saw the problem, and I shimmed this one hanger. Then I went back up on top, and I took all the hangers out that I had framed over to somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in here, and made sure that they were sucked all tight to the bottom. Then I went along and framed this entire section with the buildup. You can see on top here, because we went from 1/4 inch tile to 2 3/8 inch tile over the top of the, I'll show you, it makes more sense if I show you. Originally, there was supposed to be 1/4 inch tile on top of this wall. And then they went to that massive tile covering the track for the pool cover. That brought our elevation up, and I had to bring the elevation up on the entire framing. This height right here. Actually, it was a changing height depending on where they needed to get that tile to. And my joists, 2x12 joists, as you can see, they're notched out on the bottom for the caisson because they don't fit there, and then also notched out on the top and screwed down through the top, and then hangers on every one. Well, I brought all these hangers up to the bottom of the joist after I discovered the initial problem. How's it going?
Are you on the phone?
Yes.
Oh, I was just going to mention this.
You're going to ask what?
I was going to mention this to you. This water isn't draining.
It will. As that stuff shrinks from the sun, it'll all drain. Yep.
Okay.
No way you can make wood watertight. It'll all go down.
Okay.
So from that point, which was right in here, where I started seeing the gaps, I went forward and made sure that I beat everyone tight to the bottom of the joist. Every single one of these joists shrunk at least 1/4 inch top to bottom. I hope that I can't see through my polarized glasses well, but almost every one of these joists, at least every one of these joists now, is not touching on the bottom of the Simpson hanger. I guess that one might be. That one kind of is right there. That one kind of is right there. But as you walk down, you know, you can see how much they've shrunk. And that is that these joists have shrunk in their height at least 1/4 of an inch, because they're certainly not pressure treated. I mean, kiln dried. I actually stuck a shim in that one. And what my solution is, because the engineer way over spec'd this and went to a triple edge joist on the outside, I'm actually going to put timber locks through these into those joists, because the only thing holding those joists now, which is the crux of this, is the screws through the outside. So if you look at this one right here, I had to trim one down. I just trimmed this one down because I ran out of 6 to 8 inch, and I had to put a 12-inch one in here. But the screws that go through these sides here, that's the only thing that's holding those joists in place right now, because of the triple on the outside. If I was going to build this, I would have built it with a double on the outside, and I would have built it in sections. Initially built it with a single, shot through the outside with nails for the shear strength, then added the double because it's a 42-foot run to make it up. So I would have built this in sections all the way down. If you look down, I would have built it in sections, so maybe 10 or 11-foot sections all the way down, whatever made the most sense with the joist spacing. Stopped at the edge of a joist, and then added the double on the outside. But because she spec'd a triple to get her stamp, we lose the ability to shoot through it, and we had to put this beam in first. Both ways here, both down that way and down that way, put them in with the hangers. But the problem is that your lumber, and I'll guarantee this happens on every deck that's ever done with pressure treated lumber, is that your joists are not sitting in the bottom of the hanger. And they're not by a lot. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. And the only thing that's held those joists in at that point, if you don't do it with, you know, an edge joist that you can shoot through, the only thing that's holding those in there is those 4 screws through at an angle. So that's a problem with Simpson hangers. Now, I don't fault Simpson for it. It's, you know, obviously a super idea. And they have a great product. What I fault is I fault code for it. I fault code for saying that those Simpson hangers are good enough to hold those 2x12 joists in that spot, because they're not. They're not. And I will guarantee that anybody building with pressure treated, if you put your pressure treated in and you put hangers in, when that pressure treated shrinks, you're having gaps under the bottom of your hangers. I don't care how tight you put them in. I don't. You know, I beat them up against the bottom, and there's gaps under every single one now. So it doesn't matter how hard you try, there are going to be gaps, and that Simpson hanger is never going to sit flush to the bottom. I got one right here. It's a double hanger here. It's probably not the best example because one of the pieces is a different width by a little bit. I don't know whether that one shrunk more or what, but you know, obviously the same piece of lumber nailed together. This was built in sections, so it was shot through the ends. But let's take a look around at some of the other hangers. You know, that's a bad example because that hanger's really crooked. It didn't need a hanger there. I added it. Let's see if I can see. These on this section here are not going to be good examples. Because it's cross done. Let's see if there's any gaps. I don't think that these stick down to the bottom. So if you see that one, there's a gap there. You see that one, I can see right through it. There's a gap there. Maybe I can get, I don't know if I can get it to focus right because it's focusing on the rock. a gap right through that one. Is kind of a gap right through that one. So, you know, that's an issue, guys. So I'm going to do some decking, but my solution to that's going to be the only way to add shear strength through this 4.5 inches is to put timber locks in through the outside into every single one of those joists all the way down, so that the angle, you know, the 3.5-inch angle screws that go through the Simpson hanger are not the only thing that's holding those joists onto this beam. I know it's kind of a, you know, a little bit of an anomaly because you're not all working with the same situation. But if you put a ledger board on the house, this would be the same situation. So if you know, stuck a ledger board on the house and then you're only relying on the Simpson hangers to hold up your joist, this is the situation you're working with. These joists probably shrunk a 1/2 inch, probably 1/4 inch each way, 1/4 inch top, 1/4 inch bottom. So they probably shrunk a 1/2 inch on a 2x12. That's an issue, guys. It is, and one that Simpson cannot, you know, they can't allow a lot for that. You know, their hangers are great. Don't get me wrong. They're better than nothing, but, you know, if I put shims in all these gaps, the shims will eventually work themselves loose. So when you look in there, you know, if you put a shim in that hole, the shims are going to work themselves loose. It's not going to hold it full time all the time. So the only solution to that is to timber lock through here into that joist to give you the shear strength so that joist can't fall eventually. Yeah, so I'm going back to decking, and appreciate your time. Thanks for the watch. If you have any questions, hit me up. See ya.